I surprised my wife with a dream. Vacation to the Maldives, then found out she'd already been there with her lover. I spent 3 months planning the perfect surprise vacation for my wife. Researched the best overwater bungalows in the Maldives, arranged private excursions, booked the most romantic restaurants, coordinated every detail to recreate the dream trip Claire had talked about since we started dating 12 years ago. I wanted to save our marriage, reconnect with the woman I'd been neglecting while climbing the corporate ladder. Instead, I discovered she'd already taken that dream vacation, with her lover using money from our joint account, while I worked 70-hour weeks thinking I was building our future. Hey Reddit, this is the story of how I surprised my wife with her dream destination, only to realize I was 8 months too late and the wrong man. I'm Nathan, 37 years old, and what I'm about to tell you will make you question whether grand romantic gestures can save a marriage that's already been betrayed. You know that moment when you realize you've been working so hard to give someone their dreams that you miss them already living those dreams with someone else. When you discover that your big romantic gesture is actually just a painful recreation of an affair you knew nothing about. That's where this story goes. But let me start from the beginning, because to understand how completely Claire deceived me, you need to understand what our marriage had become and how desperate I was to fix it. I met Claire 11 years ago when I was 26 and she was 24. I was a junior associate at a corporate law firm in Boston, working insane hours for $85,000 a year, trying to prove myself worthy of partnership track. Claire was working in marketing at a mid-size advertising agency, making about $52,000 with ambitions to become a marketing director someday. We met through mutual friends at a rooftop bar, connected over shared love of travel and adventure, and started dating within a week. Claire was vibrant, spontaneous, full of life. She talked for hours about places she wanted to visit: Italy, Greece, Japan, and especially the Maldives. "That's my dream destination," she'd say, showing me photos of overwater bungalows and crystal clear turquoise waters. "Someday I want to stay in one of those bungalows, wake up to the ocean, spend days doing nothing but swimming and relaxing. It's the most romantic place on earth." "We'll go," I promised. "Once I make partner and we have the money, we'll spend 2 weeks in the Maldives. I promise." She'd smile and kiss me. "I'm going to hold you to that." We dated for 2 years while I worked toward making partner, and she climbed the ranks at her agency. Our relationship was good. We traveled when we could afford it, domestic trips mostly, nothing international, and certainly not luxury resorts in the Maldives. Enjoyed Boston's restaurant scene, spent weekends hiking or exploring New England. At 3 years of dating, I proposed. Simple proposal on a beach in Cape Cod, $8,500 ring that took me 4 months to save for. She said yes immediately. Started planning a wedding that would cost $42,000, more than we wanted to spend, but Claire insisted on making it memorable and beautiful. We got married when I was 29 and Claire was 27. The wedding was exactly what Claire wanted: elegant, sophisticated, well-attended. We honeymooned in Santorini for 1 week, which was amazing, but also reminded Claire that the Maldives was still her ultimate dream destination. "This is beautiful," she said on our hotel balcony overlooking the caldera, "but the Maldives is still number one on the list. That's where I want to go for our 5-year anniversary." "Deal. I'll be on partner track by then. We'll make it happen." The first few years of marriage were solid. We both worked demanding jobs. I was working 60, 65 hours per week at the firm. Claire was working 50 hours per week and had been promoted to senior marketing manager, making $68,000. We bought a condo in a nice neighborhood, furnished it together, talked about having kids eventually, but agreed to wait until our careers were more stable. But as my career progressed, my hours by year 4 of marriage, I was working 70, 75 hours per week, regularly bringing work home on weekends, missing dinners and date nights because of client emergencies or partner meetings that ran late. Claire started expressing frustration. "Nate, barely see you anymore. You're either at the office or working from home. When do we get to actually be married?" "I know, I'm sorry. It's temporary. Once I make partner, I'll have more control over my schedule and we can travel more, spend more time together. Just a little longer." "You've been saying just a little longer for 2 years. I mean it this time. The senior partners told me I'm on track for consideration this year. If I make partner at 34, I'll be one of the youngest in the firm's history. Think about what that means for our future. Financial security, prestige, the ability to take real vacations like the Maldives." She'd sigh and drop it, because the promise of someday was always enough to end the argument temporarily. 3 years ago, when I was 34 and Claire was 32, I made part. It was the culmination of 9 years of brutal hours, sacrificed weekends, and delayed gratification. My salary jumped from $180,000 to $350,000 with significant bonuses on top. We'd finally made it financially. I thought making partner would fix our marriage problems. Thought I'd finally have the work-life balance to prioritize Claire and our relationship. Thought we'd start traveling like we'd always planned. But making partner didn't reduce my hours. It increased them. I had more responsibility, more clients, more pressure to generate revenue and mentor junior associates. I was working 75, 80 hours per week, bringing in 7 figures annually for the firm, but seeing Claire less than ever. Nathan, this is exactly what you promised wouldn't happen. You said making partner would give you more control over your schedule. It will eventually. Right now, I'm establishing myself as a partner, proving I deserve the position. Once I'm solidified in the role, I'll pull back. When? When will you pull back? Because I'm tired of being married to someone who's never home. Soon, I promise. And to make it up to you, let's finally plan that Maldives trip. We can afford it now. 2 weeks, luxury resort, everything you've ever dreamed about. Her face lit up. Really? You mean it? Absolutely. You've been patient with my career for years. You deserve your dream vacation. Start researching resorts, and we'll book something amazing. But we didn't book anything, because every time Claire brought it up, I was in the middle of a major case or client crisis. Let's wait until after this trial. Let's wait until this merger closes. Let's wait until next quarter when things slow down. Things never slowed down. And Claire stopped asking about the Maldives, stopped asking about much of anything actually. She became quieter, more withdrawn, spending more time on her phone and less time trying to engage with. I noticed the change but didn't have the bandwidth to address it. Told myself it was normal for marriages to go through quiet phases, that we'd reconnect once work calmed down. 6 months ago, I started noticing more significant changes. Claire was dressing nicer for work, leaving earlier and coming home later, frequently having client dinners or networking events that kept her out until 10 or 11 p.m. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give vague responses. Fine, busy, the usual. No details, no stories, no engagement. Our physical relationship became almost non-existent. We'd gone from having sex 2 or 3 times per week to maybe once every 2 weeks. And even then it felt perfunctory, like she was going through the motions. I told myself it was stress, that she was advancing in her career. She'd recently been promoted to marketing director, making $95,000, and dealing with her own work pressure, that we were both just in a demanding season of life and would reconnect when things calmed down. But things that should have calmed down didn't. And I started feeling a low-level anxiety that something was fundamentally wrong in my marriage. 4 months ago, I made a decision. I was going to fix this. I was going to prioritize my marriage over my career, reconnect with Claire, remind her why we fell in love in the first place, and I was going to finally give her that dream vacation to the Maldives. I started planning in secret, researched the best resorts, read hundreds of reviews, looked at photos of different properties. I wanted the absolute best, the most romantic, luxurious, perfect resort in the Maldives. I settled on the Sonevajani Resort, one of the most exclusive properties in the country, with overwater bungalows featuring slides that went directly into the ocean, retractable roofs for stargazing, private pools, and world-class dining. The kind of place that showed up in most romantic resorts in the world lists. I booked a 2-week stay in their largest overwater villa, the one with 3 bedrooms, a massive deck, and views that looked like they were photoshopped. Cost $28,000 for the accommodation alone, plus flights, excursions, dining, spa treatments. Total budget, approximately $45,000. It was an absurd amount of money. I'd been making partner-level income for 3 years, and we'd been saving aggressively. We could afford it, and more importantly, Claire deserved it. She'd spent 9 years being patient with my career, being understanding about missed dinners and canceled plans, waiting for the life I kept promising we'd have someday. Someday was now. I was going to surprise her, whisk her away to paradise, spend 2 uninterrupted weeks reconnecting and remembering why we chose each other. I coordinated with both our offices, got approval for 2 weeks off, my first substantial vacation in 6 years, arranged for Claire's assistant to clear her schedule under the guise of a surprise company retreat, packed bags for both of us while she was at work, arranged a car service to the airport. The morning of departure, I woke up early, got everything ready, and waited for Claire to come downstairs for her usual coffee before leaving for work. She walked into the kitchen at 7 a.m., dressed in her work clothes, reaching for the coffee pot. You're not going to work today," I said. She turned, startled. "What?" "Nathan, I have meetings all day. I can't just—" "Your schedule's been cleared. We're leaving in 2 hours." "Leaving for where?" I pulled out the tickets, the resort confirmation, photos of the overwater villa, the Maldives, 2 weeks, the dream vacation you've been waiting for since we met. We leave at 10 a.m. I expected squeals of excitement, tears of joy, the kind of overwhelming happiness you see in proposal videos when someone gets exactly what they've always wanted. Instead, Claire's face went pale. Her eyes widened in what looked like panic. She glanced at her phone, then back at me, then at the tickets in my hand. The Maldives? Today? Nathan, I can't just leave today. I have work commitments, clients expecting me, projects that it's all handled. I talked to your assistant weeks ago. Everything's been rearranged or delegated. You're completely clear for 2 weeks. You talked to my assistant without telling me? Her voice had an edge to it that surprised me. It was supposed to be a surprise. I wanted to do something amazing for you. This is the trip you've wanted since before we got married. She stood there, coffee forgotten, looking trapped. Then something shifted in her expression. The panic was replaced by forced enthusiasm that looked painful. Right, yes. Of course, this is wonderful. Thank you. I'm just shocked. I need to pack. Already done. I packed for both of us. Everything you'll need is in the bags by the door. You pack my clothes? I tried to get a good mix. If I missed anything, we can buy it there. The resort has shopping. She nodded mechanically. Okay. I need to make a quick phone call to my office to make sure everything's really covered. She grabbed her phone and went upstairs. I heard her voice through the ceiling, urgent and hushed, though I couldn't make out words. She was up there for 15 minutes while I loaded bags into the car service vehicle. When she came back down, her face was composed, smiled at me. Sorry, just needed to tie up some loose ends. Let's do this. The Maldives. But her enthusiasm felt manufactured, and the whole morning had this weird energy, like I'd surprised her with something threatening rather than something wonderful. I told myself I was reading too much into it. She was just shocked, thrown off by the surprise, stressed about work. Once we were on the plane and headed to paradise, she'd relax and everything would be fine. The flight from Boston to the Maldives is brutal, about 22 hours with connections through Dubai. We flew first class, which I'd never done before. The seats converted to full beds, champagne was complimentary, the meal service was like a restaurant. Throughout the flight, Claire seemed distracted, on her phone during layovers, checking messages compulsively. When I'd point out how exciting this was, she'd smile and agree, but without genuine enthusiasm. Are you okay? I finally asked during the second leg of our journey. You seem stressed. I'm fine, just decompressing from work mode. It takes me a while to shift gears. We have 2 full weeks, plenty of time to decompress and reconnect. She smiled tightly. Right, 2 weeks. We landed in May, the capital of the Maldives, and took a seaplane to our resort. The views were spectacular. Tiny islands dotting impossible blue water, white sand beaches that looked like they belonged in a fantasy movie, the iconic overwater bungalows visible from the air. Claire looked out the window, and I watched her face. Expected awe and excitement. Instead, I saw something that looked like resignation. The seaplane landed at the resort pier. Staff greeted us with champagne and cold towels, escorted us to our villa via boat. The villa was even more spectacular than the photos. Massive deck with lounge chairs and a dining area, infinity pool overlooking the ocean, bedroom with a retractable roof for stargazing, bathroom with a bathtub that overlooked the water. This is incredible, I said, pulling Claire onto the deck. Look at this view. This is exactly what you always dreamed about, right? It's beautiful, she said. But she said it like she was confirming something she already knew rather than discovering something new. We unpacked, settled in. That evening we had dinner at the resort's main restaurant. Asian fusion cuisine, ocean views, live music. I ordered champagne to celebrate finally being here together. To us, I toasted, to finally making good on promises, to 2 weeks of reconnection and romance. Claire clinked her glass against mine. To us, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. The next morning we woke up to perfect weather. I suggested we explore the resort, check out the various restaurants and pools, maybe book some excursions for later in the week. As we walked around, I noticed something strange. Claire seemed to know where things were. When I suggested finding the spa, she pointed in a direction without checking the resort map. I think it's over there. How do you know? Just a guess based on the layout. We reached the spa. It was exactly where she'd pointed. At lunch, we sat at the Overwater restaurant. The host approached our table. Will you be dining at the Sunset restaurant tonight? I remember you loved it last time. Claire's face went rigid. I'm sorry. The host looked confused. Oh, my apologies. I thought you looked familiar. Must have confused you with another guest. He walked away. I looked at Claire. That was weird. Yeah, weird. She wouldn't meet my eyes. That afternoon, I suggested trying the resort's famous Sunset Cruise, a private boat that took couples to a sandbar for champagne and appetizers while watching the sun go down. Hey, those things are kind of touristy, Claire said immediately. Overrated. I'd rather just watch the sunset from our villa deck. How do you know it's overrated? It has incredible reviews. I just mean those types of experiences are usually overhyped. The sunset from our deck will be just as good. But her dismissal felt too quick, too certain for someone who'd never been here before. Over the next 2 days, more strange things happened. Claire knew that the north side of the island had better snorkeling, knew that the Italian restaurant was better than the Indian one for dinner, knew that the spa's signature massage used hot stones and coconut oil, knew that room service breakfast took about 40 minutes to arrive. Every time I'd ask how she knew these things, she'd claim to have read about it in reviews or heard about it from friends who'd visited Maldives resorts, but it was too specific, too confident, too familiar. On day 4, we were lounging by the main infinity pool. A resort photographer was walking around offering to take photos of couples. He approached us, then stopped and stared at Claire. "Oh, so nice to see you back, ma'am. Did you enjoy your stay last time? Will your husband be joining the coral reef dive this time too?" Claire went completely white, stood up abruptly. "You've mistaken me for someone else." The photographer looked confused. "I'm sorry, I could have sworn you have a very familiar face. My apologies." He walked away. I stared at Claire. What was that about? He confused me with someone else. It happens. He said, "See you back," and last time, and something about a coral reef dive. That's pretty specific. "Nathan, I've never been here before." He made a mistake. "Can we drop it?" But I couldn't drop it because that photographer had been too specific, too certain, and Claire's panic was too real. That night, while Claire was in the shower, I opened my laptop, connected to the villa's Wi-Fi, started searching. First, I logged into our joint credit card, started scrolling through charges from the past year. Most were normal: groceries, gas, restaurants, my work expenses. But then I saw something that made my stomach turn. 8 months ago, there was a charge to Soneva Johnny Resort, Maldives, for 14,750. Our resort, this exact resort, charged to our joint credit card 8 months ago. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. Opened a new tab, checked our bank statements. 8 months ago, Claire had withdrawn $3,000 in cash, 3 days before the resort charge appeared. I checked Claire's work calendar that she kept on our shared family iCloud. 8 months ago, she'd blocked out a week marked Marketing Conference, Chicago. But she hadn't been in Chicago. She'd been here, at this resort, where we were right now. My hands were shaking. I checked flight records on our credit card. Sure enough, 8 months ago, 2 round-trip tickets from Boston to Male Maldives, charged to our joint account, 2 tickets. She hadn't been alone. Claire had been to this resort before, with someone else, on my dime. The bathroom door opened. Claire emerged in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel, saw me at the laptop. "What are you doing?" "Looking at credit card statements." Her face went pale again. "Why?" "Because I wanted to check if that photographer could have possibly been right, if you could have been here before." And guess what I found? Silence. "You were here 8 months ago. You charged 14,000 to our joint credit card for this exact resort. Well, I thought you were at a marketing conference in Chicago." She stood frozen, mouth slightly open, unable to form words. "Who did you bring with you, Claire? Who was worth stealing from our joint account to bring to your dream destination while I was working 80-hour weeks?" "Nathan, I can explain." "Then explain. Explain how you took my money, bought tickets to the Maldives for you, and whoever the hell you're cheating with, stayed at this resort, and then let me plan this entire surprise thinking I was giving you your dream vacation when you'd already had it. Explain that." Tears started rolling down her face. I'm so sorry. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "What wasn't supposed to happen? The affair? Or me finding out about it?" "Both." "Neither. I don't know." She was sobbing now. "His name is Richard. He's a client. It started a year ago. He's wealthy and exciting, and he made me feel seen in ways you haven't in years. The Maldives was his idea. He paid for most of it. I only used our account for a part of the resort cost because he transferred me cash for the rest. I felt nauseous. You've been having an affair for a year? It's over now. He ended it 3 months ago. His wife found out and threatened to divorce him. He chose her, so I'm the backup plan. The safety net you came back to when your affair partner chose his wife. No, I love you, Nathan. I never stopped loving you. Richard was a mistake. A terrible, selfish mistake. Did you sleep with him? In this resort? Maybe even in a villa like this one?" She couldn't look at me. Nodded. "Jesus Christ, Claire." I stood up, walked to the deck, felt like I might throw up over the railing. She followed me out. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm so sorry. When you surprised me with this trip, I panicked. I didn't know how to tell you I'd already been here. I thought maybe I could pretend, get through the trip, and you'd never know. You were going to let me pay $45,000 to recreate your affair vacation? Let me think I was giving you something special when I was actually just an idiot, reliving your betrayal? I know how it sounds. I know how awful this is. But please, Nathan, please don't let this ruin us. The affair is over. I want our marriage. I want you. You want me? You've barely looked at me in 6 months. You haven't wanted to have sex. You've been distant and cold and disconnected. That's wanting me? I was processing guilt. I was trying to figure out how to move past what I'd done and recommit to our marriage. I walked back inside, opened my laptop again, opened Claire's Photos app that was synced to our shared iCloud. What are you doing? Checking something. I scrolled to 8 months ago, found photos from the dates of her Chicago conference. She'd been smart enough to not upload them to our shared albums, but they were still in her camera roll. I found them. Dozens of photos. Claire in a bikini on a beach. Claire having dinner at a restaurant I recognized from this resort. Claire in an overwater bungalow laughing at something off camera. And then I found the one that shattered me completely. Opened the folder, photos she deleted, but that stay in iCloud for 30 days before permanent deletion. There it was, a selfie of Claire kissing a man I didn't recognize. They were standing in front of the infinity pool, the same pool where I'd proposed we renew our vows this morning. I turned the laptop toward her. Is this Richard? She started sobbing harder. Yes. I stared at that photo. My wife kissing another man in the place I'd dreamed of bringing her for 12 years. The place I'd thought would save our marriage. The place she'd already experienced as an affair destination. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of this villa. Right now, I can't look at you. Nathan, please, get out, I shouted, surprising both of us. She grabbed her robe tighter, still crying, and walked out onto the deck. I heard her go down the stairs to the beach, watched her walk toward the main building of the resort, probably to ask for another room. I sat in that villa, surrounded by the luxury I'd paid $45,000 for, looking at photos of my wife's affair, and realized that everything I'd thought I was fixing was already broken beyond repair. The vacation I'd planned to save my marriage had instead revealed that my marriage had died 8 months ago. I'd just been too busy working to notice. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that photo of Claire kissing Richard in front of the infinity pool. The same pool where I'd stood that morning, holding her hands, suggesting we renew our vows in this special place she'd never been to before. Except she had been here, with him, doing everything I'd planned for us to do together. Around 3 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going to fly home immediately in a rage. I wasn't going to have a screaming confrontation that would give Claire ammunition to paint me as the unstable, jealous husband. I was going to do something smarter. I was going to document everything, gather irrefutable evidence, build a case so airtight that when I filed for divorce, Claire would have no leverage, no sympathy, no ability to twist the narrative, and I was going to do it all while she thought there might still be a chance to salvage our marriage. I texted Claire at 6 a.m. Come back to the villa. We need to talk. She arrived 20 minutes later, eyes red from crying, still in her robe. She'd spent the night in a guest room the resort had provided. Nathan, I'm so sorry. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please give me a chance to make this right. I looked at her with a calmness I didn't feel. Sit down. She sat on the couch where I'd discovered her betrayal. I sat across from her, laptop open. I spent the night thinking about our marriage, about your affair, about what happens next, and I've decided something. What? Her voice was small, hopeful. We're staying for the 2 weeks. We're going to finish this vacation exactly as I planned it, and we're going to figure out whether our marriage is salvageable. Relief flooded her face. Really? You'd be willing to try? I'm willing to take these 2 weeks to process everything, to talk through what happened, to see if there's anything worth saving, but you have to be completely honest with me. No more lies, no more hiding. If I ask you something, you tell me the truth. Agreed? Yes, absolutely. Tell you anything you want to know. Good. First question, how long were you here with Richard? 7 days. What villa did you stay in? She hesitated. A 1-bedroom overwater villa, similar to this one, but smaller. Which restaurants did you eat at? The Asian fusion place. The Italian one. The Sunset restaurant. What activities did you do? We went snorkeling, did a sunset cruise, had couples massages at the spa, went on a private island picnic. Every word was a knife. She'd done everything I'd been planning to do with her, everything that was supposed to be special, and ours was actually a recreation of her affair. Thank you for being honest, I said, keeping my voice measured. That's what I need from you. Complete honesty. Can you do that for 2 weeks? Yes, I promise. Okay, then let's try to make the most of this trip. Let's talk, really talk, about what went wrong and whether we can fix it. Over the next several days, I played the role of the conflicted husband trying to forgive. I asked Claire questions about the affair, not because I wanted to torture myself, but because I needed details for my divorce case. When did it start? How often did they see each other? Did she use our joint account for other affair-related expenses? She answered everything, believing she was showing good faith, not realizing she was providing evidence for my attorney. It started about a year ago, she explained over breakfast on day 5. Richard is a client, CEO of a tech startup we handle marketing for. We started having long strategy meetings that turned into dinners. He was attentive and exciting in ways I hadn't felt in years. With you working such long hours, I felt invisible. Richard made me feel seen. When did it become physical? About 2 months after we started having dinner meetings. He invited me to his apartment to review a presentation. We had wine. One thing led to another. How often did you see him? Once or twice a week, usually during client dinners or when I claimed to be working late. And the Maldives trip, whose idea was that? His. He said I kept talking about it being my dream destination and he wanted to take me. He paid for the flights in cash. I used our joint account for part of the resort stay because he gave me $10,000 in cash to cover it, but I could only deposit $7,000 without triggering bank reporting requirements. So I charged $14,750 to our card and used the $7,000 deposited cash plus $3,000 I withdrew to pay him back. I took mental notes. She'd essentially embezzled from our joint account, using marital funds for an affair while structuring deposits to avoid detection. My attorney would love this. And you told me you were at a marketing conference in Chicago? Yes. I even had my assistant create fake conference materials in case you asked to see them. Did she know what you were really doing? No. I told her I was surprising a friend for her birthday and needed an excuse to get away. More evidence. Premeditated deception involving coworkers in creating false alibis. While we talked, I was also gathering evidence from the resort. On day 6, I befriended one of the resort managers, Ahmed, during a casual conversation at the bar. My wife seems really familiar with this place, I mentioned, almost like she's been here before, even though this is supposed to be her first time. Ahmed looked uncomfortable. I'm not supposed to discuss other guests. I'm not asking you to violate privacy. I'm asking if my wife, Claire Harrison, has stayed at this resort before, because I'm starting to think she might have. He was quiet for a moment. Then, sir, I cannot confirm guest information without proper authorization. What if I told you I suspect my wife used our joint credit card to bring another man here 8 months ago without my knowledge? Would that be grounds for you to confirm guest records? His expression changed. If you believe financial fraud has occurred using joint marital assets, you would need to submit a formal request with documentation of your marriage certificate and the credit card in question. Our legal department could then review to release relevant booking information. How do I submit that request? I can have our legal coordinator contact you. By day 7, I had official confirmation from the resort's legal department. Claire Harrison had stayed at Neva Janney 8 months prior, with a male guest listed as Richard Morrison for 7 days in an overwater villa. I also recovered more deleted photos from Claire's iCloud. She thought she deleted them permanently, but they were still in the cloud backup. Hundreds of images. Claire and Richard kissing, holding hands, swimming together, having romantic dinners. Every photo was time-stamped and location tagged. I downloaded everything to 3 separate encrypted drives, backed everything up to a secure cloud account, made sure I had multiple copies of evidence that couldn't be erased or denied. Throughout this process, I maintained the facade of a husband considering reconciliation. I went through the motions of couples activities. We had the spa massage, went on excursions, ate at nice restaurants. To anyone watching, we looked like a couple working through problems. But I was detached, going through motions, gathering evidence while Claire believed was earning forgiveness. On day 9, I had everything I needed. Complete financial documentation of the affair expenses, photos with metadata, confirmation from the resort, text messages I'd recovered from Claire's phone backup, showing coordination with Richard, a detailed timeline of lives. I scheduled a dinner for our last night, day 14, at the resort's most romantic restaurant, the one built over the water with private cabanas for each table. Claire thought I was planning a special evening to celebrate our decision to stay together and work on our marriage. She was wrong. That final evening, we sat in our private cabana, ocean below us, candles flickering, champagne chilling in an ice bucket. It was objectively beautiful, the kind of setting that should have been magical. Claire was smiling, hopeful. Thank you for giving us a chance, Nathan, for not giving up on our marriage. I know I have a lot to make up for, but I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worth your forgiveness. Before we talk about the future, I said, pulling out an envelope, I want to make sure we have absolute clarity about the past. Okay? I opened the envelope. Inside were printed photos, side-by-side comparisons of pictures from our current trip and pictures from her affair trip 8 months ago. One photo showed Claire and me standing on our villa deck. Right next to it, a photo of Claire and Richard standing on the deck of her affair villa. in almost the exact same spot. Another showed Claire and me at the Italian restaurant. Next to it, Claire and Richard at the same restaurant, same table position. Another, Claire and me snorkeling. Next to it, Claire and Richard snorkeling at the same reef. I spread them across the table. Do you see what I see, Claire? Her face drained of color. Where did you get those? From your iCloud backup. You deleted them from your phone, but they were still in the cloud. I recovered everything. Nathan, I'm not done. I pulled out more documents. Here's the official confirmation from the resort that you stayed here 8 months ago with Richard Morrison. Here's a complete accounting of every dollar you took from our joint account for affair-related expenses, not just the Maldives, but the hotel rooms, the dinners, the gifts you bought him. Total amount, 27,350. Here's the text message history I recovered, showing you coordinating lies to tell me. Here's your work calendar showing the fake Chicago conference. Here's everything. She was crying. Why are you doing this? I thought we were moving past this. I thought you were forgiving me. I never said I was forgiving you. I said I wanted to understand what happened. And I do now. I understand completely. I pulled out the final document. These are divorce papers. I'm filing as soon as we return to Boston. I'm suing for full dissolution of marital assets with a demand that you repay the $27,350 you embezzled from our joint account for your affair. Embezzled? Nathan, it was our money. It was marital funds that you fraudulently used for an extramarital affair, lying about the purpose and creating false documentation to cover it up. That's embezzlement under Massachusetts law. My attorney is very clear on this. You've been planning this the whole time? This whole 2 weeks was fake? Not fake, strategic. I needed time to gather evidence, to document everything, to build an airtight case. I needed you to be honest about details you'd never have shared if you knew I was preparing for divorce. And I needed to make sure you couldn't claim I acted rashly or emotionally. This has all been very calm and methodical. She was sobbing now. How can you be so cold? The man I married would never, the man you married wouldn't have needed to. The man you married trusted you, but you destroyed that trust when you took this trip with Richard. You know what the worst part is? What? Her voice was barely audible. You let me plan this entire vacation thinking I was giving you your dream. You sat on that flight, acting happy. You walked through this resort pretending to see it for the first time. You let me pay $45,000 to recreate your affair vacation. You watched me plan special surprises, the sunset cruise you'd already done, the private island picnic you'd already experienced, the couple's massage you'd already had with him. You let me feel like I was doing something special for you when you'd already done it all with someone else. I didn't know how to tell you. You could have stopped me when I surprised you that morning. You could have said, Nathan, I have something to confess. But instead, you got on that plane and let me make a fool of myself for 2 weeks. I was trying to protect our marriage. You were protecting yourself from consequences, from accountability, from me finding out the truth. Well, I found out anyway. And now you're going to face every consequence I can legally impose. I stood up. We're flying home separately tomorrow. I've booked you on an afternoon flight. I'm taking the morning flight. When you get back to Boston, you'll find I've changed the locks on our condo. Your belongings are being packed and moved to a storage unit as we speak. My attorney will contact you with 8 hours about divorce proceedings. Nathan, please, don't contact me except through attorney. Don't come to the house. Don't show up at my office. We're done, Claire. Completely done. I walked out of that cabana, left her sitting alone at the romantic table I'd booked, and returned to our villa to pack my bags. The next morning, I flew home. 36 hours of travel to process everything, to feel the full weight of betrayal, to grieve the marriage I'd thought I had. When I landed in Boston, I went straight to my attorney's office. David Brennan was one of the best divorce attorneys in the city. I'd consulted with him on day 3 of the Maldives trip via encrypted email. He'd been preparing since then. I have everything, I said, handing him the drives with evidence. Financial records, photos, resort confirmation, text messages, her confession about the embezzlement, all of it. He reviewed the materials, nodding. This is extremely strong. The embezzlement angle is particularly powerful. She used joint marital funds for an affair while creating fraudulent documentation to cover it up. We can argue for full reimbursement plus sanctions. What about the condo? It's jointly owned, but primarily funded by Given her financial misconduct, we can argue you should retain primary ownership with her receiving a reduced share of equity. Good. File immediately. I want this done fast and cleanly. One more thing, Brennan said. Her employer. She had an affair with a client. That's likely a violation of professional ethics codes and possibly her employment contract. Are you comfortable with me notifying her employer? I thought about it, about the year of lies, about the $27,350 stolen from our joint account, about watching her let me recreate her affair vacation. Yes, notify them. Within a week, Claire's life imploded. The divorce papers were served. Her employer was notified about the affair with a client. An investigation revealed she'd violated company policy by maintaining an undisclosed personal relationship with a client she was managing professionally. She was terminated. Her attorney tried to fight the embezzlement claim, arguing that joint account funds weren't theft. Massachusetts law was clear. When one spouse fraudulently uses marital assets for purposes that benefit them personally while harming the marriage, it constitutes conversion of marital property. Combined with the fake conference documentation and structured deposits to avoid reporting requirements, it looked bad. The divorce settlement was finalized 4 months later. I retained the condo, with Claire receiving 15% of its equity value instead of the usual 50%, the reduction reflecting the embezzled funds. She was ordered to repay $20,000 of the affair expenses. I kept retirement accounts. She kept her car and personal belongings. Our mutual friends learned what happened. I didn't broadcast it widely, but when people asked, I told the truth. Claire had a year-long affair, took her lover to the Maldives using our joint account, then let me unknowingly plan the exact same trip, thinking I was giving her a special experience. Almost everyone sided with me. A few tried to remain neutral. No one sided with Claire. Her professional reputation was destroyed. Word spread in Boston's tight-knit marketing community that she'd had an affair with a client and been fired. No reputable agency would hire her. She ended up taking a position at a small startup for half her previous salary. Richard, meanwhile, was also going through a divorce. His wife had discovered the affair and taken him for everything. His startup failed during the divorce proceedings because he was too distracted to run it effectively. Last I heard, he'd moved to California, trying to rebuild his career. 6 months after the divorce, I started therapy. Dr. Patricia Kim specialized in betrayal. The violation isn't just the affair, she explained. It's the layered deception. She stole from you financially. She lied repeatedly and created false documentation. Then she allowed you to spend $45,000 recreating her affair vacation while pretending to be experiencing it for the first time. Each layer compounds the trauma. How do I trust anyone again? Slowly, by watching for consistency between words and actions, by setting boundaries, by recognizing that not everyone is capable of the level of deception Claire demonstrated. Therapy helped. Over time, the acute pain faded to a dull ache. I could think about the Maldives trip without feeling physically ill, could see photos of couples' vacations without being triggered. A year after the divorce, I started dating again. Went on a few first dates that didn't lead anywhere. Then met Sophia at a legal conference. She was a corporate attorney at a different firm, smart and funny and refreshingly straightforward. On our third date, I told her about Claire and the Maldives. She listened to the whole story without interrupting. Her response, "That's one of the cruelest things I've ever heard. I'm so sorry that happened to you." It's made me cautious, maybe overly cautious. Cautious is reasonable after what you experienced. I'd be worried if you weren't cautious. We dated for 18 months. Sophia was patient with my trust issues, transparent about her lot, and consistent in ways that slowly rebuilt my faith in relationships. 2 years after the divorce, I proposed to Sophia. Simple proposal at a restaurant in Boston. No exotic location, no grand gesture, just honest and straightforward. She said yes. We got married 6 months later. Small wedding, 50 guests. Focus on commitment rather than spectacle. Honeymoon in Ireland. Nowhere tropical. Nowhere that reminded me of the Maldives. 3 years after discovering Claire's affair, my life had completely transformed. I was remarried to someone who valued honesty and partnership. I'd reduced my work hours to 50 per week, having learned that no career success was worth sacrificing relationships. Sophia and I were talking about having kids. Claire, from what I heard through occasional social media checks, was still single, still working at the small startup, making a fraction of her previous salary, still living in a modest apartment, still dealing with the professional reputation damage from the affair. One evening, about 3.5 years after the Maldives trip, I ran into Claire at a coffee shop in downtown Boston. We'd successfully avoided each other for years, but there she was, in line ahead of me. She saw me, froze, then approached. "Nathan, hi. Claire, how are you?" "Good. Really good, actually." "You?" "I'm managing. I heard you got remarried. Congratulations." "Thank you." Awkward silence. Then she said quietly, "I think about the Maldives, about how differently things could have gone if I'd been honest with you that morning when you surprised me. Honesty would have changed a lot of things. I'm sorry. I know I've said that before, but I mean it. What I did was unforgivable." "You're right. It was." "Do you ever think about what we had before I ruined everything?" I thought about it, about the woman I'd married 11 years ago who'd seemed vibrant and honest, about the life I'd thought we were building, about the trust I'd given freely until she'd shown me it was misplaced. Sometimes, but mostly I think about how lucky I am. that I discovered the truth before wasting more years on someone who didn't value me. That's fair. She looked like she might. I hope you're happy, Nathan. Really happy. You deserve it. I am. And Claire, I hope you've learned something from what happened. For your sake, not mine. She nodded, grabbed her coffee when it was ready, and left. I never saw her again. 5 years after the Maldives trip, I'm 42. Sophia and I have a 2-year-old daughter named Maya. We bought a house in the suburbs. I made equity partner at my firm, but work reasonable hours because I learned that lesson the hard way. We travel regularly, Europe, Asia, domestic trips, but never the Maldives. That destination is permanently tainted, associated with the worst betrayal I've experienced. Sometimes people ask if I ever think about going back, reclaiming the location with Sophia, creating new memories to replace the bad ones. My answer is always no, because the Maldives will forever be the place where I learned that the person I trusted most had betrayed me completely, where I discovered that she'd stolen from me financially and emotionally, where I realized that my grand romantic gesture was just a painful recreation of her affair. Some places can't be reclaimed. Some betrayals are too deep to overcome. Some memories are permanent markers of who people really are when they think you're not paying attention. Claire showed me who she really was during that year-long affair. She showed me again when she let me plan the Maldives trip without confessing she'd already been there. And she showed me most clearly when she sat beside me on that flight to paradise, pretending excitement for something she'd already experienced with another man. The cruelest part wasn't the affair itself. It wasn't even the theft of marital funds. It was watching her let me believe I was giving her something special when she'd already received it from someone else. It was the performance she put on, pretending to discover a place she already knew, acting surprised by experiences she'd already had. That level of deception, that willingness to let me spend $45,000 in 2 weeks recreating her affair vacation while playing the role of grateful wife, experiencing her dream for the first time. That revealed something about Claire's character that no apology could undo. 7 years later, I don't hate her. I don't think about her often. But when I do, I remember her as a cautionary tale about the difference between the person you think you married and the person they actually are. And I remember that sometimes the worst betrayals aren't the ones that happen in a moment of passion or poor judgment. They're the calculated ones, the ones that require planning and sustained deception. The ones where someone looks you in the eye day after day and lies. The ones where they let you believe you're giving them their dreams while knowing you're just repeating someone else's gift. Claire gave me the Maldives twice. Once as an affair destination I didn't know about. Once as a vacation I planned in ignorance. The same trip destroyed our marriage, but it also freed me to build something real with someone honest. And for that, eventually, I was grateful.